The invisible leash. How manipulators own your mind without you. Even noticing the most dangerous prison in the world doesn't have bars, guards, or security cameras. It doesn't need them. The most dangerous prison is the one you build inside your own head, brick by brick, because someone you love handed you the blueprint and told you it was a castle. I want you to look at your life right now. Look at your relationships. There is likely someone, a partner, a parent, a boss, or a best friend, who makes you feel like you are constantly walking on a floor covered in eggshells. You are always tired. You are always explaining yourself. You are always apologizing, even when you aren't sure what you did wrong. You tell yourself it's complicated. You tell yourself they have a good heart, that they've had a hard life, that they just need patience. You tell yourself that you are the problem, that if you could just be a little more understanding, a little less sensitive, everything would be perfect. But here is the brutal truth we need to discuss today. You are not sensitive. You are not crazy. You are being played. You are stuck in a web of psychological manipulation so subtle that you can't even see the strings. You are being controlled not by fear, but by your own hope. By the end of this conversation, I want to hand you a pair of scissors. I want to show you exactly how these emotional architects design your reality, how they hack your empathy to serve their ego, and how you can cut the invisible leash that has been choking you for years. We need to tear down a massive illusion you have about what manipulation looks like. We watch movies, and we think a manipulator is a villain rubbing their hands together in a dark room, laughing evilly. We think manipulation looks like obvious aggression, shouting, or physical threats. If manipulation were that obvious, you would have left a long time ago. You are smart. You know how to spot a monster, but you don't know how to spot a savior who is slowly poisoning your water. Real manipulation, the kind that ruins lives, doesn't look like hate. It looks like love. It looks like concern. It looks like intense, overwhelming connection. It starts with a bombardment of affection, validating your deepest insecurities, making you feel seen in a way you never have before. And then, once you are hooked, the temperature changes. But it changes so slowly that you don't notice you're freezing until you're already hypothermic. The manipulator relies on one fundamental flaw in your operating system: your desire to be a good person. They know that you value fairness. They know that you want to be reasonable. So they weaponize your own virtues against you. They don't force you to do things. That's amateur hour. Instead, they structure the situation so that you choose to do what they want, just to avoid the guilt of saying no. They make you feel that having boundaries is an act of betrayal. They convince you that your needs are actually attacks on them. Think about the phrase, "after everything I've done for you." That isn't a statement of love. That is an invoice. They treat relationships like a transaction where they are the only ones keeping score. And somehow, no matter how much you pay, you are always in debt. Let me tell you a story. It's about a time in my life when I thought I had met the perfect mentor. Let's call him Julian. Julian was older, charismatic, successful in the industry I wanted to enter. He took me under his wing. He told me I was brilliant, that I had potential that nobody else saw. For the first 6 months, it was like a drug. He invited me to dinners, introduced me to important people, and listened to my ideas with intense focus. I felt special. I felt chosen. But then, the favors started. It began small. "Hey, can you just finish this report for me tonight? I'm swamped." Of course I did it. I wanted to help. I wanted to repay his kindness. Then it became, "I need you to pick up my laundry," or "You need to cancel your weekend plans because we have a crisis." If I ever hesitated, if I ever said, "Julian, I actually have plans with my family," the mood would shift instantly. He wouldn't yell. He would just look at me with deep disappointment. He would sigh and say, "You know, I've put a lot of my reputation on the line for you. I thought you were serious about this. I guess I was wrong about your dedication. That sentence hit me like a physical blow. Guilt washed over me. I would panic. No, I am serious. I'll cancel the plans. I'm sorry. And instantly the warmth returned. That's the spirit. I knew I could count on you. I spent 2 years being Julian's personal servant. I wrote his speeches. I managed his crises. I cleaned up his messes. I lost contact with friends. I barely saw my family. I was exhausted, anxious, and broke. But every time I thought about leaving, he would throw me a crumb, a compliment, a promise of a future, promotion, a moment of vulnerability where he told me I was the only one he trusted. The turning point came when I was in the hospital. I had collapsed from exhaustion, literally passed out at my desk. I was lying in a hospital bed, hooked up to an IV, and my phone rang. It was Julian. I answered, expecting concern. "Where are you?" he asked, his voice cold. "The presentation is in an hour and the files aren't in my inbox." "I'm in the hospital, Julian," I whispered. "I collapsed." There was a silence. A long, terrible silence. "Well," he said, "I hope you have Wi-Fi there, because I can't do this alone. If this goes wrong, it's on you." He hung up. In that silence, staring at the white ceiling, the illusion finally cracked. I realized he didn't care about me. He didn't even see me as a human being. I was just an appliance. I was a toaster. And when the toaster broke, he wasn't worried about the toaster. He was worried about his toast. I realized I wasn't being mentored. I was being consumed. To understand why we stay in these dynamics, we have to look at the psychological mechanics underneath. We need to look at something called intermittent reinforcement. This is a concept from behavioral psychology, famously studied by B.F. Skinner. Imagine a rat in a box with a lever. If the rat presses the lever and gets a pellet of food every single time, the rat presses it only when it's hungry. If the rat presses the lever and never gets food, it stops pressing very quickly. But if the rat presses the lever and gets food randomly, sometimes yes, sometimes no, sometimes a huge feast, sometimes nothing for days, the rat becomes obsessed. The rat will press the lever until it dies of exhaustion. It becomes a gambling addict. The uncertainty creates a massive dopamine spike. Manipulators are intuitive masters of the Skinner box. If they were mean to you 100% of the time, you would leave. If they were nice to you 100% of the time, you would get bored or feel secure. Enough to set boundaries. So they alternate. They give you the high, the love, the praise, the amazing date night, the perfect weekend. Then, without warning, they withdraw. They become cold, critical, or silent. You panic. You start pressing the lever, texting, apologizing, trying to fix it, desperate to get that pellet of food again. When they finally give it to you, the relief is so intense that it feels like true love. But it isn't love. It's just the relief of the cessation of pain. You are chemically addicted to the cycle. This connects directly to the concept of gaslighting. The term comes from a 1938 play where a husband slowly dims the gas lights in the house but tells his wife she is imagining it. He moves objects and denies it. His goal is to make her doubt her own sensory perception, so she relies entirely on his version of reality. In your life, this sounds like, "I never said that," "You're too sensitive," "You're remembering it wrong," or "I was just joking. Why can't?" You take a joke? They overwrite your memory. Over time, you stop trusting your own gut. You stop trusting your own eyes. You become a shell, constantly looking at them to interpret reality for you. Is this okay? Are we okay? Am I okay? You have surrendered your cognitive sovereignty to someone who is using it against you. Let's open the hidden manual of manipulation. These are the specific tactics they use to keep you in the box. If you can name them, you can neutralize them. Rule number 1. The law of manufactured debt. Healthy relationships are based on mutual giving. Manipulative relationships are based on leverage. A manipulator will do things for you that you didn't ask for, and then use those things as collateral to demand things you don't want to give. They buy you an expensive gift, and then 3 weeks later, when you want to see your friends, they say, "I spent all that money on you, and now you're abandoning me." The rule is, if you didn't ask for it, you don't owe them for it. A gift with strings attached isn't a gift, it's a bribe. And you don't have to accept bribes. Rule number 2, the moving goalpost. You ask what they need from you. They say, "I just need you to be more present." So you spend every evening with them. A week later, they are angry. You ask why. They say, "You're smothering me. I need you to be more ambitious and work harder." So you work harder. Then they say, "You care more about your job than me." You can never win. The goal isn't for you to score. The goal is for you to keep running. As long as you are running, you are too busy to realize the game is rigged. Rule number 3, the triangulation trap. Manipulators love to bring a third person into the dynamic to validate their point or make you jealous. "My ex never had a problem with this," or "My mother thinks you're treating me poorly," or "Everyone at work agrees with me." They create an imaginary army to stand behind them. They make you feel outnumbered. It's never just you versus them. It's you versus the world. This isolates you and makes you feel like the crazy outlier. Rule number 4, projective identification. This is the darkest one. They accuse you of doing exactly what they are doing. If they are cheating, they will obsessively accuse you of flirting with the waiter. If they are lying, they will call you a liar. If they are being aggressive, they will tell you to calm down. This is a defense mechanism, but it's also a weapon. It puts you on the defensive. Instead of addressing their bad behavior, you spend hours proving your innocence. It's a masterful distraction technique. Rule number 5, the silent treatment, the void. Silence is the manipulator's favorite punishment. When you displease them, they vanish. They stop responding to texts. They walk past you in the hallway like you are a ghost. They know that silence triggers your abandonment wounds. They know you will do anything to end the silence. You will apologize for things you didn't do, just to hear their voice again. They train you like a dog. If you bark, I leave. If you sit quietly, I stay. So, how do we break out of this prison? The key is not to fight them. You cannot out-argue a manipulator. They don't care about logic. They care about control. If you argue, you are giving them fuel. The solution is a technique called the gray rock method. Imagine a gray rock on the ground. It is boring. It is uninteresting. It doesn't sparkle. If you kick it, it doesn't scream. It just sits there. When the manipulator tries to provoke you, tries to make you jealous, tries to guilt trip you, you become the gray rock. You give them zero emotional reaction. They say, "You're the worst partner in the world. You're selfish and lazy." You say, "I'm sorry you feel that way," in a flat, monotone voice. They say, "I'm going to leave you if you don't do this." You say, "That is your decision to make." You do not JADE, justify, argue, defend, or explain. You stop feeding the monster. The monster eats your emotions. If you stop serving the meal, the monster will eventually starve or move on to a different hunting ground. You also need to reclaim your reality. Start writing things down. Keep a journal. When they say, "I never said that," you can open your book and see Tuesday, 4 p.m. He said X. You don't need to show them the book. The book isn't for them. The book is for you. It is your anchor to sanity. And finally, you must become comfortable with being the bad guy in their story. This is the hardest part. The manipulator will tell everyone that you are cruel, that you are cold, that you abandoned them. They will smear your name. Let them. You have to accept that you cannot control their narrative. You can only control your life. Being the villain in a manipulator story is often the proof that you have survived. It is a badge of honor. It means you stopped playing their game. I want to end this with a harsh but liberating truth. You were not. Targeted because you are weak. You were targeted because you are strong. You were targeted because you have something they lack: empathy, light, generosity, the capacity to love without conditions. Vampires don't bite skeletons. They bite people with blood. They bite people full of life. Your goodness was the handle they used to open the door. But that doesn't mean you should stop being good. It means you need to install a lock on the door. You have spent so much time trying to understand them, trying to heal them, trying to save them. You have treated them like a puzzle to be solved. But they are not a puzzle. They are a trap. And you don't solve a trap. You step out of it. The moment you cut the string, the moment you stop dancing, it will be scary. The silence will be deafening. You will feel a phantom limb where the relationship used to be. You will feel guilt heavy in your stomach. But that guilt is just withdrawal. It is the drug leaving your system. Breathe through it. Look around you. The world is bigger than their approval. The sky is bigger than their ego. You are free. Don't ever let anyone hold the pen to your life story again. Take it back. And if they don't like the new chapter you're writing, turn the page.